At Cerbos, from day one, our goal was making sure developers can very easily implement roles and permissions in the software they're building. Our goal is to making sure permissions and authorization is externalized from business logic, so it can actually change and mutate on its own. It can be auditable and traceable on its own. When we first started building Cerbos, we used OPA as the decision engine because it was actually there, it was available, and it's a great product. Original hypothesis was, although OPA is great, many developers out there are either not willing to nor wanting to learn a whole new programming language for their policies, namely Rego in this example. So when we first built Cerbos, we very much so focused on our policy language, making it very human readable and easy for developers. And we also very much so focused on all the bells and whistles around the decision engine. How do we make this a very simple API? How do we, do the logging? How do we make deployment and everything else very much so easier? Looking back, starting with OPA was a great decision because it allowed us to focus on everything else, making the experience great. As we progressed our own engine, because we couldn't get a lot of piece of information out of OPA, and we didn't have direct control over OPA. We couldn't, for example, whenever a decision was made, which rule triggered, we couldn't get that out of OPA. And as we went along, there were a lot of other pieces that we wanted to offer developers as a better experience, and we had to go make all these changes, push them upstream, get them approved, and wait for that. We decided to build our own engine, and that's been great because as we built our own engine, we were able to build a much smaller watch, very much so focused on application permission rather than everything else like networks and various other things that OPA actually addresses. We focused on permissions that would be needed by developers in applications. As a result, we were able to get a much smaller footprint whenever it's running as a CPU in memory, as well as up to 17x faster decision times, which matter a lot when you're doing permissions for applications. Permissions and authorization is at the blocking path of every API request, and therefore speed matters. Today, we're happy that we have our own engine at Cerbos because now that gives us full control and it gives us much more flexibility. And in return, we made our own engine open source, so we are actually contributing back to the developer community, and we're hoping others can build on top of our engine, or they can actually make our engine more secure and more performant. Authorization continues to evolve. There will always be different approaches, and our journey from OPA to our engine reflects that. Perhaps one day there'll be others that actually take ours as a base and improve for their own.